Like many things that age, this '06 Touareg is suffering from a bit of performance anxiety, where the struts no longer properly support the weight of the hatch. Now, who among us hasn't suffered from those kind of issues, especially when it's cold out? So in this video, we're going to be replacing those struts that support the weight of the hatch. This will pretty much apply to the first and second generation Touareg, and probably Porsche Cayenne and Audi Q7. Pretty much these SUVs that don't have a power liftgate. This is a third generation Touareg with a power liftgate. As you can see, it looks like it's probably way easier than what we're about to do. Now, there's actually two struts that live back in here in the roof of this Touareg. The outer one, this one, is for our hatch itself. This is the one we're going to be focusing on for this video. There's also an inner one that is just for the glass, because the glass opens separate from the hatch on this vehicle. If you're doing one, it makes a whole lot of sense to go ahead and do both of them on both sides, because the overlap is basically 100%. Now, there's a very important safety note before getting started. You have got to support this hatch. 1 weak strut is not enough to hold this up. Grab a broomstick and go right in the handle, then go into the anchor point down in the floor, and then kind of pull the hatch down a little bit. That'll support the weight of it, no problem. We're gonna support the left side when we do the left hatch, and we're gonna support the right side when we do the right hatch. For me, I'm gonna use the screw jack in the center to support it. That way the broomstick doesn't get in the way of the camera. Now, the repair manual calls for removing the entire headliner, which we are absolutely not gonna do, because that's way more work than we need to mess with. We're gonna start with this piece of trim right back here. This, take your fingers up to the front and just gently pull it down. If it gives you a hard time, what you can do is take a trim removal tool where the seal is and pop it down that way. Now, there are clips that go in here. A lot of times these will get left up in the roof. Don't worry about that. We'll deal with these when we go back together with it. Next, we're gonna remove the D pillar, which is the very back pillar. It's just held in with clips. So you wanna get your trim tool kind of between the trim and the seal and just pop it away. So you can see 4 clips of these white style ones. And then there's a little clip right here that actually goes in this panel. It goes right there. Do the same thing on the other side. You can see I was getting my hand kind of back behind to give a little bit more support. Well, that one came off way easier. Yours may not come off that easy. So far, this has gone really, really well. You may struggle more than I just did on these. Just be aware of that. Just be real careful that you're not bending these pieces and creasing them. If they're even available anymore, they're probably stupid expensive. Next, we're gonna undo the screw inside this little hook right here. It is randomly a T30, which is not super common on the interior of these cars. There's one on the left side, one on the right side. Very short little guy. This plastic piece can stay in there, like attached to the headliner. But you can see now we got some pretty good wiggle on our headliner. Next, we have 2 clips inside the back of the actual headliner itself. I hope your headliner looks better than mine, by the way. So these clips clip the headliner into the roof of the actual vehicle. The way I like to do these is to get a bent pick and go back behind as you're looking at it, pop the one towards the front of the car down, then take a flat trim tool like this one, push the back edge in a little bit, and that'll pop the clip down. So we'll take our 90-degree pick back behind, pop the back one, then we'll come in with our flat trim tool and pop the one closer to us. This is what that clip looks like. So you can kind of see how the little channel in the clip snaps into the body of the car. That gives us a whole bunch of room to pull our headliner down. Now, you don't want to go mashing the headliner down because we don't want to crease it. Okay, you're at a point now where you can make the decision to take the C-pillar off or to leave it on. This cover here needs to be removed so we can access the inner clip that holds the strut in, as well as take the strut out. There are a few different styles of this cover. Some have clips, some just snap into place. There's a VIN split, so technically, if you have a Touareg built before 11 of '06, it should just snap up into place. If you have a Touareg later than that, it'll have clips that need to be removed. These kind of look like screws holding it in. But VW VIN splits are absolutely terrible. This was built a year before it was supposed to have these covers, yet it still has these covers. Maybe it was replaced at some point. Who knows? Doesn't really matter. If you have these with the screws though, you probably do want to take the C-pillar out. So this is the pillar we're going to remove. It is going to be same left and right. We got our seatbelt right here. First thing we need to do is get this airbag emblem off. Behind this emblem is a screw that we need to remove. Now this is a place we need to take extra care, because if we don't, we're going to mar this all up and make it look all janky. We don't want to do that. So don't start taking a small pocket screwdriver and prying up against this. You'll mess up the emblem. I like this tool right here. We're going to go underneath. I'm going to push into the pillar, not into the trim, just like that. Notice I wasn't prying on it. I'm simply pushing back up into it. So just like that, we'll move it out of the way and then expose our screw right back there. What I normally see people do is they go jam in and pry away. That's a real good way to mess it up. Here's how it's clipped in. You can see it's just 2 clips there. So starting in the corner at the bottom, like right here, is my favorite place. That's a T20 screw. Try and be careful not to drop it down in the pillar too. That can make for a bad day. Some of these are captive, some aren't. I don't remember if this one is. I don't think that was supposed to come out. So it may be captive in yours, but my whole thing came out. Now what we can do, there's a spider. Now what we can do is we can pull the trim away at the top, and you kind of have to walk this side of it around the seal. Now I'm over here. Just like that. Just like this. Take your time here with these so you don't booger it up. Now the last little clip kind of lives towards the back side of the C-pillar. You can sort of see it right here. This one sometimes is a little tricky to get out, but you need to pop this out. And once you do that, you can pull the whole C-pillar out of the way. And then if you need more space, take the grab handle for the back seats out too. And that's just 2 T20 Torques. Now that all that's out of the way, there's so much room to work. Something else I did to prevent the headliner from creasing, from hanging too low, is I just lifted the back seats up so the headliner can rest on the headrests of the back seat. Otherwise, to me, it hung a little bit lower than I wanted it to. We can fully see our plate right here that we need to remove. That's going to give us access. There are 8 clips that are plastic T30s, so you don't really even need a tool. You can kind of pull it down with your finger. You can also take a trim clip tool like this one, carefully work it down. Now get your hand ready, you don't want to lose these. Here's what this little thing looks like. So no need to watch me take all these out. A word of caution though, some of these live behind this sunroof drain. So you're gonna have to pop the sunroof drain out of its retainers to get to them. Just be real careful, you don't want to punch a hole in this and create a water leak that your Touareg probably already has anyway. Once you have all your trim clips popped out, we can carefully peel this cover down. There's this foam seal on it that if you want to reseal it, totally don't blame you. May not be super necessary. I'll leave that one up to you. This will then expose our shock for both the glass as well as the hatch. Now there's a metal band on the strut that we need to pop loose. It's a little tricky to get to, so you can either use a pretty stout 90-degree pick like this one, or a flat blade screwdriver, and then you're gonna need to pop that little clip off. This is what the clip looks like. Sometimes it goes flying, sometimes it stays on. You don't wanna lose it in the roof though, and then you'll create a rattle. Now we still need to pop the strut off. Before you do anything else, triple check and make sure that your hatch is supported. Otherwise it's gonna come down and crush you, and well, it'll be hard to finish the job when you're crushed. You may also need to like mess with the height of the hatch a little bit to change the load on it. After you pop it, you can see it's completely loose. Then we're gonna need to move to the outside and essentially do the same exact thing. Pop the spring clip, and then pop the strut off the ball. Once the outer one's unclipped, go ahead and take your shock out. Now watch around this seal here because it gets yucked. You may have to wiggle it around to get it all the way out, but there it is. One bad strut. Check this out. I just noticed our strut probably wasn't even bad. Our spring's broken. Look at that. The beauty of cars from the Northeast. I guess it doesn't really matter what's broken on it. We're getting a new one anyway. Here is our new strut with unbroken spring. Get this guy up in here, get it up in there, then we'll get it moved into place. I'm gonna snap it on the outside first. Once you have it snapped in on the outside, you might need to lift the hatch up to get it lined up, which is why I like to do the outside one first. It'll snap over the ball pretty easily, honestly, way easier than it is coming off. Then we can go ahead and put our cover back on with that gross seal. Usually you can just push those right in. You don't have to like thread them in or anything. Okay, so I'm not filming the DIY on both sides because it's legit exactly the same, but I'm sitting kind of center in the trunk, really with my butt just barely next to the handle to lift up the lower part of the trunk. I'm sitting like this, going up with a long flat blade screwdriver. I can pop that clip at the back, no problem. Also, I'm not supported. I better support this trunk before chaos ensues. Ooh, that would have been good though. I would have got it on video at least. Once you've done both sides, get rid of whatever support and you're basically done, minus dealing with putting your headliner back. Before you do anything though, if you're wearing gloves, change them because this stuff is gonna get everywhere. It's all yucky and sticky. And even though I need a new headliner fabric, because mine's floppity, I don't wanna get this one all dirty. So, time to change gloves. Actually, before going to put anything back, we want to make sure this all works properly. So we'll get our support out of the way. Ooh. That looked like it was gonna fall over. And test it, make sure nothing's in the way. Our glass holds pretty well. We'll do that another time, but look at that. It almost opens itself. Yeah, 100 times better. So good. Double check to make sure your sunroof drains are not clogged or leaking, because you're right here. 2, I like to do the back of this headliner first. So those early clips we took off, here and here, if you snap those in now, it's going to make putting the rest of it in quite a bit easier, because you're not fighting the headliner flopping around like that. So do this one first, and then your headliner's basically in place while you put the rest of the stuff on. All right, let's get this stuff here on the driver's side put in. I'm gonna leave the passenger side out for now because I found some wire sadness that I need to figure out what the heck is going on with it. I'm gonna start with this T30 in this little clip right here. Then we'll do our C-pillar. A note on the C-pillar, there's this rectangle here with the adjuster below it. Make sure you get it in a position where you can clip this piece in. This takes a little bit of finagling. I like it towards the top so that this doesn't hang down. This is a bit of a juggling act because you got to kind of get it all in at the same time. Sometimes it's easier to come around the outside of the car here and just look, see if you're lined up. I am now lined up. Now I'm lined up. There we go. There we go. You can get a bent trim tool like this one to get the top in. Once you get the pillar in place, make sure the seatbelt moves. Also, don't feel bad if you have to like take this back out and put it back in a couple of times. These are actually pretty tricky to get lined up properly. You have multiple places that need to all get lined up, and it doesn't help that our headliner is all flopping and sagging, getting in the way too. So just take your time. If you got to pull it back down and do it again, I'd rather you do that than not install it properly. Then don't forget to put your unmarred airbag emblem back on. Then we'll come over here and we'll put our floppy handle in. I hate that I'm putting this back in this way, but it's just what it is. These are T25s, by the way, if I didn't mention that earlier. Next, we'll do our D-pillar. We got one clip right here that got left below. So we'll pop that out, slip that in our trim panel. This trim panel too, we got to pay attention to because we got a couple of lower notches that need to get lined up, as well as the 4 clips that go in the body of the car. These are also floating a little bit, so you have some room to work. I have found that it's easiest to start along this edge, get the bottom lined up, get all the trim clips lined up behind it. Once you get it kind of lined up, watch this. So I'm snapping in these 2 along here first, then I'm looking with my eyeballs to make sure my other ones are lined up. Once they're lined up, tap, tap. Make sure your seal is in. Yeah, not a lot I'm gonna do about that right this minute. Now, you have hopefully put on your passenger side, unlike me, who left it loose, which means since you've done that, this is our final bit we need to do. This back trim cover right here. What we don't wanna do is just smash this thing on because it's never gonna go on right. We have 4 of these white trim clips that stayed behind. We need to remove these. We need to take our trim piece and install them in the little channels here. You can see there's 2 ledges. There's the top one and then the one where my finger's touching. That goes into here just like that. These are also floating, so they have a little bit of wiggle room. There's also clips here at the end that clip into our D-pillar trims. So line them up. You can see the white grommets in the body side. Once you get them lined up, snack and snap it into place. I'm not going to do that because I'll just have to take it right back down. But you want to make sure you line them up first and then just give it a tap. You might have to tap where each clip is. Then something you might have to do, take your trim tool, go up under the seal and just pull the seal over the trim piece the way it's supposed to be. All right, there we go. Ta-da! We have our struts replaced to hold up our hatch, and look at how much higher it is now. Instead of being just like right where my head is, it's at its proper height, which makes me feel really short, by the way. So this is actually a 2006 V8 steel suspension Touareg that I picked up recently. A pretty good score, I think anyway, for $4,500, especially being pretty well teched out. Even has heated rear seats, that no one will ever use. So if there are any videos you think that would be helpful to the Touareg Cayenne Q7 community, let me know down in the comments and I'll see what I can do. In the meantime, I don't know what's going to happen to this. Are we going to throw the whole Eurowise catalog in it? I don't know. We'll figure that out at another time. With that, I'm out. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll talk to you again next time. Fun fact, Touareg was the first VW certification that I had, and I spent very much a lot of years at the beginning of my career working on these things, so they always have a place in my heart, a love and a hate place.